So I'm joined by Chad Colbert, candidate for District 11, County Board of Legislators seat. District 11 encompasses Stockholm, Potsdam, and a little bit of Norwood, right? And so, Chad, thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So I just wanted to start out. Tell me a little bit about yourself, both personally and professionally. What do you do? And tell me a little bit about yourself here.
Okay, I was born and raised in Norwood. Graduated Norfolk High School, and from there went on to college at SUNY Plattsburgh. Got a degree in accounting. Worked as an accountant for a few years, and then went on to graduate school. Got an MBA from Wake Forest University down in North Carolina. Worked for a large insurance company down there in their investment department for a couple years. Actually, I think about 5 years. And then went into personal financial planning, got my CFP designation. I also hold the CFA charter as well as the CWS designation. So currently I run my own financial planning practice in Potsdam, and I also teach part-time at Clarkson University. I've been married for 20 years, going on 21 years. My wife and I have 4 of our own children. We do foster care. Currently we have 3 foster kids in addition, so we have 7 kids in our house right now. One of those foster kids we've had for a long time, and we're in the process of adopting him. So, let's see what else. As far as personally, I like physical activity. I like to run and bike, and I hike we do a lot of backpacking, hiking, and high peaks with my oldest son. I run with my younger daughter. She's 15. She runs at Norwood, Norfolk, so we do a lot of running with her as well, and just enjoy outdoors.
Great. So you're currently running for the 11th district seat, and take me a little bit behind your motivations for running for Board of Legislators. Well,
there's a couple reasons. When COVID hit, well, first of all, let me go back here. When I was on the Board of Legislators before, and when I was on that board before, we tasked the county administrator with rebuilding the county's fund balance. When I went into office the first time, there was actually a negative fund balance. I think it was to the tune of $2 million, I want to say. When I left office, it was significantly higher than that. I want to say it was $14 million, $20 million, something like that. And the fund balance was significantly higher. The reason you need a fund balance is for reasons like, well, right now is a good example. When you have something like a pandemic, like we're going through right now, hits, revenues become somewhat more unstable. As sales tax, I think it was down. I think the last report I heard for St. Lawrence County was down $700,000 or $800,000. I think last quarter or last month. So when that happens, revenues to the county are down. Our cash flows are somewhat uneven anyways because we rely a lot on state reimbursements. The state is very slow to pay what they owe. And as a result, there's sometimes a lag in what we have to pay out versus, what we collect. So you need a fund balance to kind of even out that difference in collection versus payment due. In the past, when I first went into office we were actually borrowing money just to meet cash flow. We weren't borrowing money because we were short. In the end, the cash flow all evened out, but we had to borrow money because we were short cash and we had no place else to get it. So we got the fund balance. We were able to eliminate borrowing needs, at least for cash flow, and that saved us about $100,000 a year just doing that. So one of the reasons I want to get back on the board is I see potential problem. Well, there's already a problem with the pandemic, but I see the need to be very disciplined with our fund balance. In my opinion, fund balance is for exactly what we're going through right now. So there shouldn't be much disruption currently to we shouldn't have to lay people off. We shouldn't have to cut services, any of that kind of thing, because we have a healthy fund balance. I expect fund balance to actually go down a little bit this year because of the COVID-19 crisis. That's what I expect to happen. That's exactly what fund balance is for. What I don't want to see happen, which we've already heard some rumblings about, is, we have this good, big, healthy fund balance. Let's do this, let's do that, let's do all these other things. That's not what fund balance is for. Fund balance is exactly for things like we're going through right now. And that being said, I don't think our fund balance is exactly even to the level where we want it. As a personal financial planner, you tell folks, you should have anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in cash liquid savings that you can get at very easily, very quickly, that kind of a thing. That's what fund balance is. It's that 3 to 6 months of living expenses for the county. Right. That being said, our fund balance policy should be up around 10 to 15% of revenues. It is not there yet. Even at $20 million, $25 million, our expenditures, our budget is, I think, to the tune $250, $270 million. So we should have anywhere between a $25 and $35 million fund balance to be considered. That's really should be the goal. So I want to maintain discipline with the fund balance policy. Secondly, another reason I'm interested in getting on the board. When I was first on the board, it was a lot of focus was given to the financial side of things. It had to be. If you can't fix the financials, it's like a sinking ship. You got to plug the holes before you can do really anything else. So that's what I felt a lot of my time and our efforts were devoted to initially. This time around, that we still need obviously some like I just said, we still need a little more attention on the fund balance. And there's some other things we need to do as well. But one of the things I would like to focus on is, since my wife and I do foster care, I do kind of have a soft spot in my heart for that kind of, for the foster children and the parents and everything that's involved with that. So I want to focus a little bit more on that to see what we can do to make that process, how do you term it, more, I guess, friendly to the children and the parents involved and more cost efficient. Having a child in foster care is incredibly expensive, and it's damaging depending on how long they're in foster care. If these children don't have permanency, it's damaging to the child. It can be damaging to the biological parent. So I want to see, okay, what else can we do? Is there something we can do to reduce the time in care, whether that means, return them home to their parents sooner or free them for adoption sooner. But, we found that if these kids have permanency sooner, they generally do a little bit better. And sometimes, is there something we can do, can this child stay in their parents' home with help from whatever services are available, or maybe we need to make more services available? Because in some cases, if you've got a parent that has 2 or 3 kids, and you're talking about removing 2 or 3 kids from the home, it's almost more financially, it makes more financial sense to actually send somebody to that home almost on a daily basis. It might be cheaper to do that than it is to bring the kids into care. And the kids are probably better off. The parents are probably better off for doing that. No kid wants to be removed from their parent. So, and money, in my opinion, should never be a reason that a parent loses their child. In my opinion, money's an easy problem to fix relative to addiction and chemical, and mental health issues. Those problems are much more difficult to fix.
I actually want to circle back to these a little bit later and jump into these policies a little bit, but kind of want to widen out right now a little bit more. As far as the communities that you would represent, Town of Potsdam, Stockholm, what are you particularly seeing in your communities that, as far as issues that the county needs to be focused on and needs to be tackling, and that you would be taking a look at closely if you are elected?
Countywide, it would be, obviously I do want to do the fund balance. We have a general fund balance policy. There are other what we call appropriated fund balances that the county has that I think we need a policy for there as well. And some of those appropriated fund balances, one would be for the highway department. We need to start putting away a little bit of money every so often, every year, to address our roads and bridges. Those are problems across the county. It's not, one district has that problem versus another district does not. They all have that problem. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Again, countywide, another issue is this the chemical dependency and mental health issues, I think, and that's something I feel like I can add some insight to as a foster parent. But that's another issue that needs to be addressed. It's not as much of a problem in Stockholm and Potsdam as it would be in places like Ogdenburg and Messina, but it's still problematic countywide. As far as particularly to Stockholm and Potsdam, Stockholm and Potsdam are actually 2 very different communities. Stockholm, for example, is well prepared right now. Their fund balance is healthy. They're doing quite well. They have been able to maintain a good budget and exercise discipline. They just built a new town hall here a couple of years ago, and they're doing okay. Potsdam, on the other hand, they're struggling a little bit. They consistently raise taxes above the tax cap, and they're still in financial trouble. So I have a feeling with the district, the areas that I represent in Potsdam is going to be very interested in this new sales tax, potentially new sales tax formula with the county versus the towns and villages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you, why do you think that you particularly would make the board or put the board in a better position if you were on it to tackle those kind of things? And what individual steps would you look into to try and, help these towns, help these villages, and address those issues head on?
Well, one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason I think I'm I guess better suited to do this is I've got experience. There's things that I've learned and know from being on the board previously that take some time to learn and know. And I've already, the experience I think accounts for a lot. My personal experience as well, I think, helps bring a perspective to the board that I think would be beneficial at this particular time. One, as a business owner, and two, as a foster parent. So it brings that perspective to the board that I don't think is there right now. Well, business owner perspective is there, but the foster parent perspective is not there. I think it would be beneficial. As far as specifically addressing the issues with the different areas that I would hopefully represent. The experience, I have a very good relationship with the town of Stockholm, the town supervisor, the town board members. They all know who I am. I have a good relationship with them. I know them. I see them. I talk to them on a fairly regular basis. So working with them, I would be better equipped to work with them on any issue they had, simply because they're more comfortable coming to me because they know who I am already. My opponent, I don't think she knows. They don't, because they've asked me. They don't know who she is. So the town of Stockholm, I certainly have that relationship there. The town of Potsdam, or the town and village of Potsdam, I don't have as a relationship with them as I do with the town of Stockholm. So, but I still at least know how things work. And the one thing I will say, I don't really like, I don't know, most people probably don't like talking about themselves, but one of the things I do feel is one of my strengths is I'm pretty good at getting along with people. There's not too many people I don't like, and I'm pretty good at working with pretty much anybody. Even if the person, really disagrees with me, that doesn't matter, because the way I see things, most of the time, most people, I tend to believe most people are good people, and most people want what they think is best for their community, their families, their country, everything. So the end result, most people want the same thing. It's just how do we get there is where we might differ. So when I take that perspective into all conversations I have with folks, especially folks who don't necessarily, we might disagree on how things are to be done, but I have to, I remind myself, hey, we both want the same thing. So let's try to agree on a way to get there. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I want to, you already covered some of these areas a little bit before, but I do want to jump into a little bit of policies that are issues that are currently affecting the county right now. You brought it up, the budget. Next year's budget is going to be really incredibly challenging. I mean, everybody's budgets, all municipalities, school boards, businesses, everything, of course, is going to be challenging and uncertain. And as you pointed out, the county currently is in a decent position. Sales tax figures are usually pretty unpredictable. At least in the beginning part of this year, they were relatively steady nominally. And the administrator just came out with her tentative budget for next year, which is proposing $3.5 million in appropriations cuts. So you mentioned it a little bit before, but I want to dig into this matter of the general fund balance. In specifics, we're looking at about a little bit over $20 million right now. How much of that should we be considering playing with to try and make up for any gaps we may have, any uncertainty we may have going into this year?
Well, that depends. Obviously, we'd like to use as little of it as we possibly can. However, I expect, and I would not be averse to using a little bit of that fund balance just for day-to-day operations. I do not, like I said before, fund balance is not to be used to expand programs, to expand services, anything like that. Fund balance is to be used to maintain what you've already got. So, and I do, like I said, I do expect, would not be surprised, I guess, if we had to use some of that just to maintain. How much? Well, that depends. Are services going to be greatly increased? Not really. I don't think this pandemic has really caused a great increase in our services. I may be wrong on that. I'm not, involved in the day-to-day, but I don't foresee any huge increase in the services we offer. What I do see is a potential effect on our revenues, and we've already seen a little bit of it with their sales tax revenue. However, I believe Ruth said, the county administrator said in her budget presentation that sales tax revenues, while they were down over the last month, they were still above what they had budgeted for the year overall. So sales tax figures for the year overall may come in absolutely fine. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't have to use any of our fund balance. The only issue, or the biggest reason I can see where we're going to need to dip into that fund balance if sales tax revenues fall significantly below what we've budgeted. And if they have, then that's a revenue shortfall that's got to be made up somewhere, and that's what fund balances will be for. But like you said, sales tax revenues, they're anybody's guess where they're going to be. Ruth, I think, is being very conservative as far as she's budgeted the same amount for sales tax revenue next year as for this year. I think that's a fairly safe, conservative estimate for next year's budget. So I think she's done a masterful job at this year's or next year's budget, and I think it'll be okay. I think that the other thing too, and this is what I pointed out too. I actually talked to the town board or the town supervisor and one or two of the board members for the town of Stockholm. One of the things that hurt last time we had a recession, and these things always come. That's what people have to understand too. It's like winter. I burn firewood. Every year I have to cut my firewood ahead of time because I know winter's coming. Governments need to kind of think the same way. Winter's always coming. Once you get through one recession, there's really another one right around the corner, so you need to be preparing for it. But anyways, unlike 2008, 2009, the stock market hasn't taken a beating like it did in 2008, 2009. It did initially, but then it's recovered fairly significantly. That being said, there's a large chunk of, I remember Stockholm in the 2008, 2009, they had a huge chunk, or the amount that they had to contribute to the New York State retirement system went up significantly in that time frame. Because the stock market didn't perform well, and they had to come good on the pensions that the employees for the town are eligible for. So, and the same thing happened with the county, and that was, I think that was a fairly large expense. I think it was up, I can't remember the numbers, but it was up a significant amount. Mm-hmm. This time around, I don't expect that's going to happen. The stock market is holding up okay. I don't expect any. Folks are saying that there's always folks on both sides. It's going to crash. It's not going to crash, so on and so forth. But it hasn't so far. It did suffer a little bit initially. It's recovered almost completely. So this increase in state retirement for the county and for towns, that's not going to happen, or it hasn't happened yet. So that's a good sign. So this is already not the same recession, same downturn as we had in 08, 09. This is more, on the revenue side, not necessarily on the expense side. So, and again, like Ruth is saying, or the county administrator is saying, so far we're still on track to be a little above sales tax overall for the year than we were last year.
Mm-hmm. So I also want to touch on another topic you brought up is Department of Social Services. Recently, the Commissioner of Social Services, newly hired, Cynthia Ackerman, noted to the County Board that the number of children in foster and institutional care is upwards of 340, and as I know that's doubled in the last year or so, and that's a pretty I think you could agree, staggering figure for St. Lawrence County, given that 1 out of 100 people outside of New York City is from St. Lawrence County, but based on those numbers, upwards of 4 out of every 100 foster cases in that same area are in St. Lawrence County. DSS, the General Counsel's Office, saw 100% turnover in staff over the last year, and the Commissioner's Office was unfilled for several months. Take me into what do you think are at the root causes of this situation with the increased number of children in foster and institutional care, and run me through a few actionable steps that you would push the board into trying to resolve this issue.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and if we could solve that problem, we'd be utopia here, I guess, to a certain extent. Anyway,
it's a big question.
It really links, I think, to economics. St. Lawrence County is an economically depressed area. It has been for some time. With economic depression comes all sorts of related problems. And some of those problems are, you think about yourself. You and I are both, working adult males, or you could be working adult female, doesn't matter. When you take away, or when a person loses their ability or their opportunity to work and to contribute gainfully to society, that does something to them mentally, I think. And it can lead to some mental health issues, which in turn can lead to chemical dependency issues. So, and my wife and I, with our experience with foster care, every single child we've had in our home has both mental health and chemical dependency issues. That's why the child is in care in the first place. And I think a lot of it has to do with the economics of the county, or the economics of New York State in general, really, where there's just not the economic opportunities here that there used to be. A lot of people are unemployed or they're underemployed. They have mental health issues from maybe caused by that, maybe not. I'm not saying every mental health issue is a result of economic situation. That's not true. But anyways, it could be. It could contribute obviously to mental health issues, which leads to chemical dependency issues, which obviously they can't raise their children if they're experiencing these drug addictions and that sort of thing. What can we do to solve that? Well, there's not a whole lot the county can do. I believe people are ultimately responsible to take care of themselves, but there are some things we can do to try to create a better environment here. And one of the things I think we should be doing to create a better environment here is keep this county financially stable. If you keep the county financially stable, there is no need to increase taxes excessively. If we don't increase taxes excessively, it does create a better chance for economic activity coming back here. When a company looks to locate in a locality, whether it be a county, a town, a village, or whatever, you can bet they're going to look at the financial stability of that municipality, because they're going to want to know, okay, our taxes, are they going to stay stable, or is there going to be a crisis and they're going to increase taxes all of a sudden and we're going to get stuck with a large tax bill? Well, if we can show that we're financially stable, our property taxes are either level or maybe even declining, which would be great, it's going to be more attractive for businesses to come here. Now, of course, we only control county taxes. We don't control town and village taxes, and we don't control school taxes, but we can do our part. That's one aspect. Another aspect is we do need to look at what services we are providing for some of these folks in care, or for some of these parents who are losing their children to foster care. Mm-hmm. Recently, there's a discussion currently about a methadone clinic trying to locate a methadone clinic in the county. Who should do it? I think it's between St. Lawrence County themselves, the Canton Potsdam, or the CPH, whatever it's called now, Canton Potsdam Hospital, and then
St. Lawrence Health System. Yes.
St. Lawrence, there you go, St. Lawrence Health System. And then St. Joe's, I think, was the other one that did a presentation. I did not see the presentation, so I can't speak to who I think is best to offer that clinic. But that's a step in the right direction, I think. I think that's a step that needs to be taken, so we can try to address some of these mental health and chemical dependency. Well, this would be more the chemical dependency issues. But things like that, I think we need to, and we need to look at the efficacy of what we are doing. Are our mental health counseling services working? Are they up to date? When I first came on the board, we discovered that sometimes the mental health counseling is, it's not being done, I guess, to the most efficient way it can be, at least at the county level. Are there enough mental health services in the county? We don't need to do it all. St. Lawrence County doesn't need to provide all these services. Private enterprises, private industries are willing and able to provide some of these services, in some cases better than the county can. You've got United Helpers and Fostering Futures and these kind of agencies. They provide services of their own that can help address some of these concerns as well. We need to look at partnering with some of these agencies and saying, okay, what are they doing? Is it working? What are we doing? Is it working? And pursue the best course we can, because we've got to do something. But it's got to work. We can't just throw money at it and expect, we're throwing money at it and that means we're working on it. Not necessarily.
Do you think there's
a problem?
Do you think there's almost a lack of strategy for this?
A lack of what?
Strategy, an overarching plan to, specifically when it comes to mental health issues and issues related to addiction. These aren't new things.
No.
These have existed for decades now in the North Country.
Right.
What do you think we need a sort of strategy, and why do you think that hasn't been developed yet?
I don't know. That's a good question. Could you have an overarching strategy on? I think they do. I'm actually on the Community Services Board right now. But they're a bunch of, the Community Services Board, it's still, they seem to have an overall strategy, at least of increasing access to care, and they do have different metrics that they're supposed to meet, and they do go over that plan strategy every year, so they do have some type of strategy. Is it effective? Is it not? I don't know. And it's not really fair to say right now, too, because, I shouldn't say right now, but, the environment we're in is a little bit unique from other times. I mean, when I was young, my father retired at Alcoa. Back when he was working at Alcoa, there was, close to 3,000 workers at Alcoa. Now there's a few hundred. GM has closed down. Reynolds is gone. So the environmental or the economic picture here has changed dramatically from, even 30 years ago, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the need for mental health and chemical dependency is just skyrocketed from, I think, back then to now. So, but I do think they do have an overall strategy. I think they are addressing things as best they can, and they are looking. We just had actually, which I thought was really helpful. We just had where was she from? Anyways, a professor from one college. It wasn't a local college. I want to say Albany area, maybe. Anyways, she was doing what she called a listening tour. It's nothing too scientific, but at least can point you in the right direction. As far as she was going around to the different counties and talking with people who are engaging in mental health and chemical dependency services, and learning about their experiences with both, and how to improve on the services that is provided in each county. And they're going to do that in St. Lawrence County. It hasn't happened yet, but they're going to do that in St. Lawrence County, which is, I think, will be valuable information. But one of the aspects I brought up to them is for us, again, my foster care experience, we had a couple of teenage girls that were with us for a period of time, for 18 months, and they needed mental health counseling. Well, we didn't know where to go. We didn't know who to contact. Are there different specialties in mental health counseling? Where can they get in? And even when we did, discovered they needed mental health counseling, it was 2 to 3 months before they finally got into somebody, which is unacceptable. And if it wasn't for our case planner at Children's Home in Jefferson County, we'd have been lost as to how to help these girls with mental health counseling. We probably would have eventually figured it out, but we wouldn't have. It was much easiher with our case planners. Here's what we need to do. And so that's something I think that needs to be addressed. If a parent or a caregiver or a loved one, a sibling, whoever has discovers that hey, my brother, my sister, my child, my loved one here, they need mental health counseling, they don't always know where the resources are. And that's something that I think that needs to be addressed, and that's something I think they are working on.
Okay. All right, and with that, I think we're right at about 30 minutes here, so I'm sure we could go on. There's plenty of things, plenty of issues.
Not too much, huh?
Hey, 30 minutes is not enough time to lay out plans to solve all the issues in this county. But anyway, Chad Colbert, candidate for District 11, County Board of Legislators seat. Thank you again for joining us. And for any listeners at Watertown Daily Times, you can find these interviews and with all the other candidates also available on nny360.com.